Leo Johnson, the colored lightweight champion, would get a shot at Benny Leonard, the Ghetto Wizards title. Benny Leonard did not draw the color line with Leo Johnson. But Leo Johnson could fight. No, he didn't defeat Benny Leonard, but he was given a shot. Imagine if Benny Leonard would draw the color line and fighters such as Leo Johnson would not get a shot. We would never have an answer as to who would become victorious. Benny Leonard, who was known as the greatest lightweight champion of all times, he himself considered Joe Gans, as I do, as the greatest lightweight champion. Joe Gans took so many dives because he was put in a position where he had to. Joe Gans was the inventor of the jab and the 1-2 combination punch. He was out of Baltimore, and he could fight. George Dixon, a Canadian who was the first fighter to fight overseas, the first athlete to win a championship. He discovered shadowboxing as an art form in preparation for the world of pugilism. Yeah, Larry Temple, who created the bolo punch. Dave Harley was a master of that shoulder roll. Just imagine if Tom Molyneux and Bill Richmond, who, by the way, was the first fighters to come out of America. Tom Molyneux would be the first black fighter to get a title shot. Bill Richmond would be the first American trainer who would train his protege, Tom Molyneux. And both men were black fighters. Look at Peter Jackson, who was known as the Black Prince. Yes, he was the Australian and the colored heavyweight champion, but he didn't get a shot with John O'Sullivan as he asked. Nor did Old Chocolate, George Godfrey. John O'Sullivan drew the color line. Just imagine, if young Pluto and Bobby Dobbs, Larry Temple and George Godfrey, Black Bill, Hilario Valdez, or Claude Brooks, Joe Butler, Bill Jack Thompson, Harry Sutton and George Cole, Bob Armstrong and Sam McVeigh, Joe Jeanette, Harry Wills, Harry Martin, Harry Woodson, Bob Tarver, who was known as Black Wonder, Joe Butler, who was known as the Black Wizard, was also known as the Darky Wizard, Kentucky Rosebud, and George Gunther, Massa Kendricks, Melvin Thompson, Klondike Haynes, and Harry Lyles, and Denver Ed Martin, George Taylor. Just imagine if these men got a shot at the title. Men like Jack Blackburn, Panama Joe Gans, Sam Langford, Hank Griffin, Ruff Turner. When we look at fighters, what contributions could have been made? Iron Mike Tyson was the youngest heavyweight champion at the age of 20. Floyd Patterson was the first youngest heavyweight champion at the age of 21. He'd be involved in the 1952 Helsinki Olympic Games as a middleweight. He would bring home the gold medal. 1956, he would take on Archie Moore for the vacant heavyweight championship belt left over by Rocky Marciano. And he would become a heavyweight champion of the world. He was the first fighter to regain the heavyweight championship belt to Ingemar Johansson, who, by the way, Ingemar Johansson was part of the Helsinki Games, and he would lose to Ed Sanders. Ingemar Johansson was from Sweden. Larry Temple was the inventor of the Bolo Punch. Vander Holyfield, four-time heavyweight champion. He was the first unified, undisputed cruiserweight champion. The first unified, undisputed heavyweight champion. Back to back. Vander Holyfield was part of the 1984 Olympic team where you would have Mark Breland, you would have Frank Tate, Virgil Hill, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, Meldrick TNT Taylor, Greg Page. You have alternates, such as Michael Second to None, Steve McQuarrie, who was the brother of Milt McQuarrie, who was a middleweight champion out of the Conks Gym. You had James Lights Out Tony, Roy Jones Jr., Bernard the Executioner Hopkins, Mike the Body Snatcher McCallum, Julian the Hawk Jackson, Terrible Terry Norris, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, 12-year reign middleweight champion, Sugar Ray Leonard, participated in the 1976 Olympic Games as a junior welterweight. He was paid $40,000 in his professional debut. The color line was not drawn for these men. Yet Poison Junior Jones come out of the 88 Golden Gloves in Olympic trials. Kevin Flush and Flash Kelly, also part of the 1988 national team, along with Michael Moore, Riddick Big Daddy Bo, Michael Carbajal. I mean, you had so many fighters who changed the scope of boxing. Men like Michael Dynamite Dokes, Big John Tate. You look at Sweet Georgie Benton, king of the shoulder roll. He was known as the mayor of Philadelphia. Reuben Hurricane Carter, who unfortunately was institutionalized. What a fighter he was. Bobby Green, Emil Griffith, so three-time welterweight, two-time middleweight champion, and one-time junior middleweight champion. He would defeat Don Fulmer. I mean, Don Jordan, Johnny Saxton, Kid Gavilan, the great Sugar Ray Robinson, five-time middleweight, one-time welterweight, champion of the world. Jose Napoles. Had Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder. Opportunities that were given to black fighters today. Charlo brothers, Demetrius Andres, Devin Haney, Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence. I remember when James Buddy McGirt came on the scene. Oh, what a fighter he was. Frankie Randall, Chiquita Warren. Poison Junior Jones. Oh, what a puncher he was. Iran the Blade Barkley. Sweet Reggie Johnson. Lamar Kid Fire Parks. Tim Littles. Oh. Yeah, Lonnie Bradley. Unfortunate that Tatch Ratner would end his career. Nigel Bent. Lloyd Hunnigan take the title away from Donald Curry. Donald Curry had almost 600 amateur fights. Aaron the Hawk Pryor. What a fighter he was. Thomas the Hitman Hearns. 5 division champion. I can't make this stuff up. But imagine if Sam Langford had that opportunity. He was a 5-time colored heavyweight champion, 1-time Mexican, 1-time Australian. He was a colored middleweight champion. My God, what a fighter Sam Langford was. The color line had prevented a lot of these men of legacy. It's what it did. It secured some established fighters championship opportunities, in many instances, to become champion. We will never know, if given fair opportunities, if some of the champions would become champions. If some of the black fighters would have had a chance to become a champion. And if they did, how well they would have done. Joe Louis became the heavyweight champion in 1937 when he defeated Jim Braddock. But he had to pay 10% of his purse to James Braddock to the end of his boxing career. Archie Moore become a 10-year reign light heavyweight champion in 1952. He defeated Joey Maxim, but he would receive $800. And Joey Maxim would make $100,000, with guaranteeing rematches, 4 fights. Harold Johnson was in the locker room. He was given an orange that was injected with fluid. Emil Griffith had a 3-fight series. Benny Kid Perrette. 1962, Benny Kid Perrette was in a ring with Gene Foreman, who was a middleweight champion. Had no business in a ring with Gene Foreman. Gene Foreman, his problem was Ray Robinson, 1960, would take on Paul Pender in Boston. Ray Robinson was supposed to face Gene Foreman. But there was a clause in the contract that stated that a rematch was in order. Ray Robinson fought out of New York and went up to Boston and took on Paul Pender. So when Paul Pender defeated Ray Robinson, he was supposed to take on Gene Foreman. But he fought Ray Robinson in a rematch. Title was stripped. Gene Foreman would take on Carmen Basilio. He would fight for the NBA middleweight championship belt. So Benny Kid Perrette would then take on Gene Foreman. If he didn't do that, his welterweight championship title would have been stripped. He gets in a ring with Emil Griffith. And he's killed in the ring. But because of that fight, is why padding would be placed on the poles to prevent a fighter from banging his head on those poles, because that's what happened to Benny Kid Perrette. He didn't have oxygen tanks by the ring. He didn't have medics fully equipped to take care of business for fighters in the ring. A lot of that changed with the fight between Emil Griffith and Benny Kid Perrette. Black fighters had contributed so much to the game of boxing. In one way or another. Look at the wars that Evander Holyfield has had. I think he had the most rematches in modern boxing history. He's in the ring with John Ruiz several times, Lennox Lewis several times, Riddick Bowe several times. Cleaned up the cruiserweight division. In the ring with Mike Tyson several times. Incredible. If the color line was not drawn, what would the game of boxing look like? I admire Tony Canzoneri. I admire Benny Leonard. I admire Johnny Dundee. I admire Harry Greb. I admire Maxie Rosenblum, Jake LaMotta, Rocky Graziano. But you had the Black Murderers Row, first wave. Black Murderers Row, second wave. The Black Murderers Row, third wave. They didn't get those opportunities. Fighters like Burt Littell and Charlie Burley, Holman Williams, Coco King, Little Tiger Aaron Wade and Eddie Booker, Lloyd Marshall, Jimmy Bivens, Elmer Violent Ray. Oh my God. You had Harry Smith, the Harlem Thunderbolt, Jack McVeigh, the Pride of Harlem, Leaperville Shadow, George Godfrey. It's almost criminal the opportunities these men didn't receive. Obie Walker had to take on Elmer Violent Ray 14 times. Sam Langford had to take on Harry Greb 22 times. He had to take on Joe Jeanette 14 times. Sam McVeigh 15 times. Are you kidding me? Battling Jim Johnson, defeating him 11 times, facing him 15 times. Jim Johnson would get the shot with Jack Johnson. He's the first black heavyweight champion to fight another black fighter for the title. That wouldn't happen again until Joe Louis and John Henry Lewis in 1939. Then it would happen Ezzy Charles and Jersey Joe Walcott. Milestone would happen when Jersey Joe Walcott and Ezzy Charles would be in a ring with a black referee. Boxing is a rich sport, rich in history. Poor in how fighters were handled. When you look at Charlie Burley and Holman Williams, they fought each other 7 times. 3 wins apiece and 1 no contest. Kid Gavilan had a war, and I mean a war, with Gil Turner. What a fight that was. Philadelphia. Bo Jack and Ike Williams. My God, 1948. Lightweight championship of the world. Bo Jack was in the ring with Bob Montgomery several times. Ike Williams would get a shot with Juan Zarita in 1945. He would get a shot. Mexico City, but he couldn't celebrate his title in the ring. They would throw half-eaten sandwiches, beer bottles at Ike Williams. He had to run to the locker room to enjoy his victory. as did Marvin Hagler had to do with Alan Mentor. But there have been some great fights. I was at the Garden when I ran to Blake Barkley on a Sunday evening. Took on Michael the Silk Elijah Day. I remember when Simon Brown was in the ring. With his stablemate, the Thin Man. And he would win that IBF crown. Remember when Kevin Kelly was in the ring with Derek Gainer? Oh. Junior Jones in the ring. And had some wars with Marco Antonio Barrera. Muhammad Ali, Smoking Joe Frazier, was in the ring with one another 3 separate occasions. Ali was in the ring with Kenny Norton several times. For 2 epic battles with Sonny Liston. What a sport. Michael Dokes in the ring with Mike Weaver twice. Larry Holmes, Eastern Assassin. Very underrated heavyweight champion. Isn't it ironic that him and Marvin Hagler both turned professional in 1973? I remember watching Marvelous Marvin Hagler at the Philadelphia Spectrum, 1978. He would take on Bad Benny Briscoe. And when that fight was over, he pulled the microphone, called out Ronnie Harris, who was the 1972 Olympic champion. And Ronnie Harris was in the first row. And I was behind Ronnie Harris, about 7 seats over, in the second row myself. And when he called out Ronnie Harris, I almost passed out. Imagine being a kid in the second row at a Marvin Hagler fight when he wasn't champion yet. And he fought Bad Benny Briscoe. And he pulls a mic and he calls out Ronnie Harris. Oh. Harris was in the 1968 Olympic Games as well. And that's the same games in Mexico City. George Foreman. And he pulled out the little flag and he waved it around. How do you not love boxing? But the color line has been changed to manipulation, holding out contracts, being paid less than when you're worth, having to fight a 3-fight deal, whether you win or lose, in another foreign country. Finally, since 1938, there's unifications that's starting to come around. 1938 was a great year for black fighters. Yeah, Henry Armstrong was the lightweight. He was a featherweight. He was a welterweight champion. Yeah, Charlie Burley, who was the colored welterweight champion. Ray Robinson was the Metropolitan Bantamweight champion in the amateurs. We have John Henry Lewis, light heavyweight champion, and Joe Louis, the heavyweight champion. 1938. That same year, Joe Louis would be involved in the biggest sporting event of all times with Max Schmeling, knocking him out in one round. 1940. Some of the greatest fighters in boxing history would all turn professional together. Willie Pep, Ray Robinson, Jimmy Bivens, Ike Williams, Ezzard Charles. And what was ironic? That Ezzard Charles, Willie Pep, Ike Williams, and Ray Robinson would all lose their titles in 1951. Randy Turpin was an outstanding fighter. He had a brother by the name of Dick Turpin. He was the first black European champion. Had a fighter by the name of Len Johnson, who wanted an opportunity with Mickey Walker. Was denied that opportunity because Mickey Walker had drew the color line. Len Johnson would become the British Empire middleweight champion, but he had to get that title in Australia. A man from Scotland named Tommy Milligan. And Len Johnson's home state, his hometown, would get a shot at Mickey Walker. He'd be knocked out, but Len Johnson never got that shot, and he lived in Europe. Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Thanks for listening. The Color Line, right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Peace to my brother Curtis Anderson, R.I.P. to him. Shout out to Hardline Boxing, Random Custom Thoughts. My brother Stormy B Man, St. Cruisin', Antonio Mosley. Peace.